I've had a very busy week.
Problem is,
Then this.
Gang,
At ya, talking about catch ya.
that's it.
I didn't do anything.
But what's good, y'all? Welcome back to Believe in the Miami Heat, brought to you by the Believe Network. As always, I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo, coming to you with another chill pod today, this time with a special guest. So let's get right into it. I'm joined today by a very special guest, the best point guard to ever join me on this podcast, besides Mario Chalmers. You didn't think I was going to slander Rio like that, did you, Roy?
Yes, I did, especially when you're talking.
I'm just playing, Roy. I'm not going to keep you.
Psych, I'm the best point guard all time ever. They call me the special guest in this episode.
Who invited you, bro?
Kawhi Leonard.
You wear the Kawhi
Clippers.
boots for like 4 games.
This is the Clippers channel.
Okay, you can leave now. I ain't gonna keep you small like that all game, bro. I'm gonna make you normal size again. Crazy, bro. Go leave.
About me.
The second best point guard to ever join this show, the leader of the Kane Gang, the host on the Basement Sports Network. It's Mr. Royal A. Shepherd. How you doing today, my guy?
I'm doing well as long as you're in misery, bro. Like that's always a good sign for me. Whenever you're sad, then my spirits are always lifted.
Okay, I'm gonna get right into it. So Royal is an asshole, but if you are aware of Mr. Shepherd, you already knew that. So for context, I said he's the host on the Basement Sports Network. Let's get the promo out for that right now. Me and Royal work together over there. The best, Miami-centric sports network out there. We be doing post-game shows during the Heat season. We're doing off-season streams now. We're doing Dolphin streams. If you are a fan of this channel and this podcast and you don't know about the Basement Sports Network, I guarantee you'll like it. So go check it out on YouTube, Basement Sports Network. Go check it out on Twitter at Basement Sports and give them a follow because it is the most hilarious creative groups over there, group of guys over there, including Royal, I will say, and the best host of the podcast and of the post-game streams over there. But being that Royal and I have worked together over there for about a year now, it was my first year over there. I want you to share your first impressions of me when we first met and how they have changed since then.
Okay, so initially when you first came out, like me and you had this conversation, so it was never like anything secret about it. I just didn't get it. Like I was just like, I don't like you. I cannot stream with you. Like if in order for me to be able to properly stream with someone, I have to know, like, understand them to a certain extent to be able to kind of like guide the way that I host to kind of elevate their skill set. I just didn't get you, bro. Like I just didn't understand what you were doing. Like I had seen a few of your videos, but I just didn't get it. And I think what ended up happening is I told you, look, bro, make your own show. Like I'm happy to have you as a part of the network because the skill is obviously there. But like I don't know how I can like utilize that skill with what I do. So get your own show, start that. That's when you started Witness Weekly. And I started tuning into Witness Weekly. And it just kind of like, it was like a light bulb went off and it just kind of like clicked. It was like, this is quirky, like Tobin Jr. type shit going on over here. And so I use that as kind of like the catalyst to help me understand the best way for us to work together in that space. And like, I think it's done really well, like in terms of the first year, because there were some rocky moments, but you can see like our relationship progressed to the point where on our last stream of the season, you dropped a diss track about me that I did not expect, but I thoroughly enjoyed because that's the way that the relationship is naturally developed. It's a lot of ribbing, but I can appreciate like the talent that you offer to our network. And it's been invaluable in terms of our growth. So like, we appreciate you in that regard, but it's just like on a personal level, I'm still working on the liking you part. Like you're just annoying, bro. Like it's just the reality.
So you brought up a lot of good points. I mean, first off, the annoying you. That's one of the biggest things I bring to the table at the Basement Sports Network. I think it's a dynamic that not only the fans enjoy, but people inside the network as well. You brought up Witness Weekly, which for those who aren't aware, is a stream I was doing during last season with George, also on the Basement Sports Network. And you said it was a light bulb moment that went off for you in terms of helped you answer, what am I? But I think that's funny because I can't even explain what the hell Witness Weekly was. It was a whole conglomerate of randomness and random guests and skits and all that stuff that somehow turned out to be entertaining.
But that's to me what made it make sense. Like it felt like a sketch comedy show about basketball. Like, so I got vibes of like Mad TV and all that and stuff like that. And I can tell like those were like heavy influences in the way that you went about. So it's never like, you don't want to like sit on one idea and let that be the focus of anything. It's like you're constantly creating, you're constantly having new innovative ideas, and sometimes the best form or the best way for you to get all those off is just throw it at everybody all at once. And so like that's what I learned from watching that show. Is just like he has too much to like contain in one sitting. So like giving him an outlet to let him like pour it all out every now and again, and just kind of structuring that helped us better be able to work as a tandem.
Yeah, and for those that are asking about Witness Weekly, I've had a lot of comments. People want to bring it back. I've been working on it, but obviously only got so much time, so I'm trying to manage the basement sports content, the personal content over here, the podcast content. But we'll be bringing back creative stuff all throughout the off season, regular season, just when we got time for it all. Do you have a favorite piece of content of mine that I've made over the last year?
The easy one is the Whopper video. Like
big old booty muffin topper, who's overpaid.
That's something that everybody kind of turns to. That was kind of like the highlight of probably the entire network throughout the course of the season. So that was definitely a high. But for me, I think personally, my one personal like piece of ant material that I enjoyed the most was the Moana.
What can I say except
we suck? Pat Riley is an old fuck.
What can you say except we suck? Kyle Lowry is a fat fuck. Like that moment, like that was great for me because that was like in the intro stages of me learning what it is that you were like, how your mind like perceived comedy. So like that to me, like that was something that we mutually found funny. Like you thought it was funny to make, and I thought it was funny to see. So the Moana thing was definitely a highlight for me in terms of that. But of course the Lowry shit, like everybody loves that one.
Yeah, I'll have to edit those in here if people aren't aware. But if y'all like the creative shit I be doing over here, you got to check out the Basement Sports Network because it is that times 10 with different personalities. And I think part of the reason that, you started to, to understand me a little bit more is when you realize that I did have a little bit of a villainous side to me. All it needed was a shitty regular season to bring it out to me. And I think that's maybe something that you respected a little bit as well.
So it manifested itself in a different way in terms of like your villainous side. It's not just like, because at the best, it's not about like what your opinion is that makes us kind of like accept or kind of like toss it to the side. It's the way that you go about presenting it. Can you defend what it is that you believe? And if you can do that, then that's cool. So you're always able to defend your positive views. It's when you started to use that as a troll that I realized that you had some basement in you. Like you were trolling the panel by being positive when there was obviously nothing to be positive about. So Optimistic Ant, that's another piece of content that you created, and it falls in line with what we're talking about. That's the villainous side of you that I enjoyed the most, where it was like you're not only trolling like the fan base who don't want to hear that at the time, you trolling us like on the network who really don't want to hear that at the time, but you found a way to make that like entertaining for everybody, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just it was wonderful to see like you kind of grow into that space using your natural personality to create kind of like a villainous persona that works on multiple levels.
Yeah, so again, another character I play in the Basement Sports is Optimistic Ant. And last season, as you know, Royal, was so boringly mediocre that it forced all of us to be creative. Because by the way, we doing a post-game stream after every single game. We might have missed 2 at most. So when y'all know how bad last season went, it forced us to be creative. And there was only so much bad that we could all say. So I started being irrationally optimistic, talking about Kevin Love's all-star appearances and Udonis Haslem stopping Dirk in 06 and how that
17 years ago.
But you know what, Royal? I was right.
It was only 17 years ago. It was only 17 years ago that Udonis Haslem was locking up like that. That shit. That's what I'm talking about, bro. So like that had the entire network of stitches.
I had part of the whole thing on that too is there's obviously other networks in the market that some of us feel are maybe too optimistic, but we're gonna get into that a little bit later. For the people that still aren't aware of Royal, I want to do a little game just to help them maybe learn a little bit more about you. So we're gonna do that with our next segment.
First puzzle. Royal A. Shepherd?
Wheel of questions.
That's it. You got it.
That's funny.
Questions here. We're going to go ahead and spin it to learn a little bit more about Royal A. Shepherd. Questions range just from Heat fandom to sports fandom to just playing basketball. We got all kinds of interesting stuff on here. So we're going to give the wheel a spin and see what it comes up with here. Looks like we are landing on, we got the one that I think everybody would have wanted to see. Your craziest college story. What is something you feel like you could share with us without feeling like you're going to get in trouble with the fam at home?
Okay, so all right. So I attended Florida A&M University. I'm a graduate of Florida A&M University. But yeah, so I was also in the Marching 100. I was in the band. And my first game ever, we went to the city of Detroit. I had never been to Detroit in my entire life, so that was the first time that we went. My upperclassmen, the people who came up before me, told us freshmen, 18-year-old freshmen, to walk and find liquor for them at the liquor store. And so I walked to a liquor store in Detroit, Michigan. It was like the first night that I was ever there, in the middle of the night, to find a liquor store. We ended up walking about 4 miles just to kind of find it, asking people who were extremely unfriendly for directions. But we ended up finding one, and that's just kind of like one of the more tame collegiate stories that I'm willing to tell on like this type of forum.
Well, I'll let the imagination of the listeners run wild because, of course, I know you was in FAMU and you did the marching band over there, which is obviously like the best in the country when it comes to that. And I can only imagine combining that atmosphere with the atmosphere of Detroit, Michigan, which I've been to, by the way. I kid you not. I was there for maybe 5 minutes. And one of the first things I saw was a cop pulling someone over and taking a little bag of some white powder out the back of the truck. That was my experience 5 minutes being into Detroit. So I can only imagine the things you would have encountered during that time.
I mean, as an 18-year-old irrational person from Pompano Beach, Florida, like there was no fear there. It was more of an exploratory mission. Like I had never seen Detroit, so it gave me an opportunity to go out there and see it. But I did see some parts that were rough. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you another story off air.
Hey, subscribe to Royals OnlyFans if y'all want to hear the rest of that story. All right. So we're gonna get into some actual hoops here. Probably not very much because, like as we always say, ain't shit going on. But somehow we always find something. So my first hoops related question for you is, why is it Tyler Herro's fault the Heat lost the championship last year?
It's not. It's not. It's Tyler Herro's fault that the Heat don't need Tyler Herro to get to a championship. Tyler Herro is only at fault, in my opinion, for the way that he plays when he's on the court. I don't get into all the different things off the court, but Tyler Herro, for some reason, has not grown to the point where he can find a role next to our better players and still is able to be like the optimal version of himself. I believe that he should play like Duncan Robinson. Off the ball, moving, back screens, dribble handoffs, catch and shoot basketball player. That does not seem to be where his mind is focused at. He wants to be more of an isolation scorer, 3-level scoring guy, whatever, pick and roll. He wants to be that. And he has the skill set to be that, I guess. But on this team, I believe the optimal version of Tyler Herro is Duncan Robinson on steroids, or Max Strus, what Max Strus was on steroids. And he just hasn't been able to wrap his mind around playing like that.
So to summarize, you want Tyler Herro to be white and he wants to be black?
Yeah, that sounds about right to me, Anthony DiNardo. That sounds about right, bro. He's trying to have a little more wiggle in his game than his genetics allow for, and it annoys me. So I tend to I don't know. I'll allow him to grow in his NBA career, but on this team, I think
that's been the thing with me is pretty much everything you said about Tyler Herro, being a high-level role player is kind of the saying that you go to, which I even wrote a song about that. I don't necessarily disagree with you. The difference is I acknowledge the kid is 23 years old and maybe he can turn in someone that can be, the third best piece next to Jimmy and Bam on a contender. Why do you think that he has no promise or potential?
I don't think that. See, that is the misconception. The misconception is that I don't see any talent in Tyler Herro. I do believe that in some bizarro world, he can grow into a 25, 26 point per game scorer. I just do not believe he can do that with the Miami Heat. The best version of Tyler Herro individually is Tyler Herro somewhere else. Conversely, the best version of the Miami Heat team is with Tyler Herro somewhere fucking else. Like, he cannot be the best version. What's best for Tyler Herro is not what's best for the Miami Heat, and what's best for the Miami Heat is not what's best for Tyler Herro. So that, to me, has been the mismatch that has plagued his entire tenure, and that's the only thing that I've been trying to say. He will never be good enough to win a championship with Jimmy and Bam. Like, by the time he's good enough to do that, they're not going to be good enough, or Jimmy won't be good enough. And you'll need something else to complement Bam and Tyler with. So get him the fuck off my team. I've seen enough. It's just not going to work.
Well, I'm certainly not here to convince you otherwise, because I'm well aware after a whole year of Tyler Herro discussion, we just be going around in circles all day. There is no convincing Royal A. Shepherd. He feels how he feels, and that man's going to stick to it until the day that he dies. So let me ask you, the hottest topic of the summer, Damian Lillard, you want him on this team, correct?
Yes.
What would be the most you are willing to give up for him?
Anything short of Jimmy and Bam Adebayo. There is no player on this roster that I believe is too important to be included in that deal. There's no player that I believe will the value that we'll lose from whatever player that we get, it does not offset the value that Dame Lillard impacts by being on it. So there's no player short of Jimmy and Bam, or no price short of Jimmy and Bam, that I'm not willing to pay to get him on this team.
See, a lot of people on Heat Twitter seem to think that Royal is one of the unreasonable ones, but it's when he says things like this that make me realize he knows ball. Because, I mean, you know, Royal, I don't got to tell you, but for everyone else, there's a lot of Heat fans crying that they may have to give up Jovic and Jaime Jaquez, who played a combined, 7 games for the Heat last year, to get Damian Lillard. They don't want to get rid of those two guys to get one of the greatest players ever. And when you talk about a team that just went to the finals, and you'd be giving away guys who didn't play, you'd be giving away Tyler Herro, which, how many games did he play in the playoffs last year, Royal? Tyler Herro? One. So Heat fans don't want to give up nothing for Damian Lillard. Make it make sense to me.
So I tend to try and look at things from both sides of the spectrum. Like, we've been conditioned. Yes, I do. Because I just don't do that on stream, because that is unnecessary and people don't want to watch that.
Respect. Nah, respect.
I take them behind the curtain. People want to watch me be pissed off at Tyler Herro for things that don't piss me off. And so I get on camera and I am pissed off at things that do not piss me off at all. But their argument is that they've been conditioned to believe that this Miami Heat team can develop players at an absurd rate, which is absolutely true. So the unknown, the Miami Heat fan has grown to believe in the unknown because of what we've seen it happen. We've seen it time and time again. Tyler Johnson, unknown, becomes worthy of a contract. Well, not worthy, but he got paid a contract that he was never worthy of. You got Josh Richardson, 2nd-round pick. He would end up going for Jimmy Butler. And then you got the current iteration, the Duncan Robinsons, the Max Strus, the Gabe Vincents. They've seen these guys turn from unknown players to serviceable players that have made it to an NBA Finals, like as contributors. So they're envisioning that Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic will also follow that same trajectory, as opposed to understanding that Damian Lillard is a top 10 player right now in the NBA. So, I get it. You want to believe in development, and you're thinking that later on down the line, this means that there's a super team around Bam of guys that have been developed and cultivated within this system. And I'm just saying, get the rings while you can get them. That's just the reality. You get the rings while you can get them. And if you think that same thing is true for Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic, you have to believe that the same thing is true for Damian Lillard. Who's to say that when Damian Lillard comes over here, Spo won't make him a better player? He's never proven that he otherwise. He's made every player that he's ever had better than before they came, and that's just the reality of what's going to happen when Dame gets here.
Yeah, so while obviously I agree with you, I'd give up everything outside of Jimmy and Bam. I don't necessarily think they'd have to, because I do believe they are in a position of leverage. Who do you think holds the most leverage in this situation?
Right now, it's Miami considerably because of all the new things. You got Adrian Wojnarowski pivoting off of his initial take about all these teams that could potentially be getting in on the deal. You have Brian Windhorst reporting that he hasn't heard anything or any offer from any other team outside of Miami. You got the Dame only Miami thing. So it seems like all of these different pieces are boxing Portland in. But my belief has always been the same. The longer that this draws out, the more that pendulum will swing in the opposite direction. I think the longer you have Damian Lillard sitting here, Miami not pressing the issue or whatever, this gives other teams opportunities to come in. You heard a report that I don't really believe, but you heard it about Toronto getting involved and potentially having discussions about going after Dame Lillard. Those are the types of conversations that become dangerous. I don't want Dame to become impatient. I don't want any other team to get the itchy fingers and decide that they're going to throw their hat in there, because as soon as another team throws their bid out there, Miami is automatically beaten because other teams can give them better packages. So I feel like while you're the only horse in the race right now, you go for the gusto, give them whatever, which is something that you're willing to give up before, but you're trying to hold out now. Give it up, get Dame in the house, and then let's get this show moving.
So anytime I come on this channel and say that the Heat have the leverage, which is pretty much every single episode now, the Portland fans come out of the woodworks and they say, you know what they say, Roy? They say, Portland has Dame under contract for 4 more years. We don't have to do anything. What is your message to those dumbass Portland Trailblazer fans?
Well, it like I said, like I look at things from both perspectives. It makes some sense when you're saying it like that. When you're just strictly talking about contract, like he has 4 years left, we don't have to trade him. However, you are not realizing the impact that has on a player like Scoot Henderson. Scoot Henderson, the guy that you just drafted, is watching this entire thing unfold. If you're going to hand him the keys to the franchise, you need to do that as soon as possible so that he can take his lumps and grow into the player that you think he can become. If you bring Damian Lillard in there, there's a problem. There's a power struggle, not only amongst like the front office and Dame, but the power struggle of the team and Dame. If Dame walks into that locker room, he is the leader of that team. Do you want a disgruntled leader? It's not. It's going to be by default. He will be the longest tenured player there. He'd be the most decorated player there. They will follow Dame. And I have no doubt that Dame will kind of uphold and do his job or whatever, be a good soldier. But the fact of this entire circus going on this offseason, I don't think Portland needs that hanging over their head as they try and enter a new era. Like, you just need to kind of get past that, go into the Scoot era fresh, wipe the slate clean, build your team from there.
Yeah, a lot of Portland fans will say he'll play, which, like you addressed, yeah, he might play. But then they think, hey, maybe we can get him to change his mind. Maybe Scoot turns into an all-star year one. Maybe the team is in the spot for a play-in, and Dame says, hey, maybe we can make some noise this playoff run. I personally believe that Dame obviously didn't make this decision to ask out overnight. This is the culmination of a decade plus of everything he's been told, everything, all the promises he's gotten, every single game on the court. This is not just something that I think his decision could just change overnight. So that's why I personally believe it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Obviously, we're hoping this before training camp for obvious reasons. But what's your confidence level at that this finally does get done?
I think it's going to get done. Like if we're doing it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at about an 8. Like, I want to leave in that little bit of wiggle room for Pat Riley to fail and give my network infinitely more coverage about how he's washed. But I think inevitably this gets done. I think the holdup right now is Joe Cronin trying to do a good job before he gets fired. And like, he's auditioning for his next job. So when he goes into that interview, he can say, I didn't get completely screwed by Pat Riley. Like, I did okay. So I think that's what's holding up. They hold out for another asset. But Miami eventually gives it up, and then they get Dame on this roster before training camp.
Obviously, I agree with you, and a lot of Portland fans would probably think Joe Cronin's holding out for his job and stuff at this point. But I would argue his job security is not based off the package he gets for Dame. His job security
– No, he's already fired.
Yeah, it's how well he runs the team. And I'd say running a team properly is picking a direction, okay? Which means that if you want to get rid of Dame, you rebuild. You get rid of Dame. Not you hold on to Dame, you play him, then guess what? You're an 8th, 9th seed again, stuck in a mediocrity, which is the worst place to be in sports. He's very clearly not picked a direction. He has no idea what the hell he wants to do with his team. His last press conference, he even said, yeah, maybe we'll get some win now players, or maybe we'll rebuild, maybe a couple of picks now so we can win, or maybe a couple of picks in 5 years when the team's not as good. He seems to just be totally incompetent. And truthfully, I do think that there's a lot of smart Trailblazers fans, too, to give y'all some credit, that don't like Joe Cronin in the front office. But it just seems like he really doesn't know what he's doing. And I don't think a guy like that would ever beat Pat Riley. That's why I certainly think that he'll end up here as well.
Well, I don't see this as like he's not even in Pat Riley's league, so it's not like there's not a competition between Joe Cronin and Pat Riley. He's facing off against Andy Ellisberg. He's the student. He can't go to the master. You go to the student first, bro. Like you go through Andy Ellisberg, and if Andy's having trouble with you, then I'll come in here and clean it up. But like I think Andy has proven that even Andy Ellisberg is a much more competent GM than Joe Cronin is. Like I said, I believe Joe Cronin is fired. No matter what happens, I think he's done anyway, and he's just auditioning for his next job. So whether or not he chooses a direction here, there, anywhere, it does not matter. He will be out of there, and they will be on to the Scoot era one way or the other. Dame Lillard will not be there this year. And so they might as well prepare for that inevitability.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, maybe he shouldn't care what package they get in return anyways. But we still got a couple months before training camp. I think we'll learn a lot more in that time. But I want to get to probably one of my favorite things about you is that you understand the internet, Royal. And you have a favorite saying that I will not lie, I've stole and said many times myself, is that everybody on the internet is just a bunch of ones and zeros. Because the internet is a place filled with so much toxicity at the moment where people get genuinely upset to the point where it ruins their day, to the point where they want to go out and fight people, to the point where they might get depressed and things along those lines. When in reality, as you always say, the internet is not a real place. So I want to ask you, how much of yourself, and we addressed this a little bit earlier, but how much of yourself exactly on the internet that we see is like actually you compared to the way you actually believe or maybe are in real life?
That's a tough question because I've had this slogan for years. I get on the internet to troll and lie about my real life. Like I've said that like in the context of several things. But so who I am on stream is a caricature of who I really am. So like that person is in there somewhere, but it's just not a feasible person to be on an everyday basis. I have a wife and 2 children. Like I cannot be wildly like that in my everyday life. But a lot of it is genuine. Like I don't get angry at anybody on the internet. Like it's just not a thing for me. Like I've been subject to death threats. I've been subject to people using my child's picture as like their profile picture. People have done it to me. Like the thing that irritates me is when they go to my family, but like what people say about me directly doesn't really bother me because like you said, like I don't think you guys are real. Like I say what I want to say. Whether or not that's the truth, that's completely up to me. Like I lie all the time on Twitter. Like I just do. That's what's fun for me. That's how I use the internet to lie. So if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say about 15% is like me, my actual opinion. 85% of it is me poking somebody to try and get a reaction or to like piss people off so that I can argue with them all day.
See, that's why I like your mindset, because the same way you treat the internet is the same way a lot of people do. They are on the internet solely to hurt feelings and emotions and all that sort of thing. Yeah. And to people that genuinely get mad about that, I just ask them, like, can't you just close your laptop? Can't you just lock your phone? Can't you just hit the mute button or block somebody like that? I never understood people that get mad over words in general, even in person, you know, as someone who hoops a lot currently, and I know you used to hoop a lot as well. Trash talk is one of the biggest parts of just pickup basketball and stuff. And how many fights have I'm sure we both seen get started over trash talking? Like words are just words, you know? And at the end of the day, there's something to be said about respect and something like that. But that's why particularly online, some people will waste hours of their day just going back and forth and going into circles with no resolution. It just seemed like a complete waste of time every time I see it.
I'm people, Ant. I will spend hours going back and forth. However, I'm not looking for a resolution. That is the part that pisses me. People who get mad at me on Twitter, you are wasting your fucking time. Like, because your anger does nothing but give me incentive to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, if you're mad at my take on Tyler Herro, guess what I'm going to tweet tomorrow? I'm going to tweet about Tyler Herro. Why? Because you're going to come right back. Like, and it's going to give me something to do for a couple minutes. But I agree with your point 100%. Like, if I get tired of Twitter, I just close Twitter. Like, it's really not like it's really not that big of a deal. Like during the NBA offseason, I tweet a whole lot less because I don't have anything to tweet about. Like I'm not gonna tweet about my real life. Like it's just not a thing. So like I think people do take social media too seriously, and some people like they aim that vitriol at objects. Like some people who mad in their real life, you get on Twitter, you want to aim that vitriol at me because you can't do it at real. I can take it. I'm cool. I talk a lot of shit, which means you can talk shit to me, and it doesn't really matter to me. It's going. I don't care. But yeah, like I don't know, bro. Like so many people like get mad about online shit, and it's unnecessary, bro. It's an avenue to have fun. It's an apparatus to kind of grow whatever you want to do. And if you want to be mad at shit all day, then please follow me because I'll make your ass mad. Like that's it.
Yeah, I know the reason you definitely do it when you said, that's what you do is for entertainment purposes. You find it entertaining because, again, you're not taking no personal shots. Your takes are strictly basketball related, but people obviously take that too seriously. And the reason I find it entertaining too is because nothing is more funny than somebody being fumingly mad at you and you just don't give a shit. Am I right? There's nothing funnier than that.
That's one of the most beautiful parts at it, but it's also like you hit on something that people don't even realize. Like, bro, I don't take personal shots at people on Twitter. I don't disrespect. Like, I'm disrespectful to an extent. I don't disrespect people's personal lives. I don't fat shame people on Twitter. Like, I don't attack your lifestyle or anything. Like, if you mad at me, you're mad at me about something I said about basketball. And if you want to talk to me about basketball, we can do that too. But if you want to like attack my personal life, that's not gonna move me either. I am a happy man in my everyday life. Okay. You cannot make my day go bad by using words. Like I'm a happy man by nature. Like I have a good wife, I have a good family, I do great things, I have fun in my life. If you want to talk about me being fat, feel free, because when my wife get home, she gonna be rubbing on this stomach.
Yeah, I love the way you think about it. Of course, I'm the same way as I've been saying. Not a lot of people are that day, but I think that mindset is part of the reason that you've been able to be, so successful online over the last, X amount of years. You become a very prominent figure on Heat Twitter and on Heat. I don't want to say journalism, but you know what I'm saying, on the Heat social media space, which is a real community. I mean, there's actually thousands and thousands of people that know everybody's name, knows everybody says, listens to podcasts, YouTube videos, shows, everything. It's like a real space. And of course, now you're on the Basement Sports Network. You were with another prominent network prior, and there's been a lot of hostility between really, multiple networks on Heat Twitter. I just want to ask you, why do you think that is? Why can't we just all be Heat fans and, and a happy family at the end of the day? Why is there so much hostility?
I think a lot of people get personal about their takes. And so when someone disagrees with them, some people may perceive it as like an attack on their intelligence or their basketball knowledge or something. And even like the way we do stuff. So like I'll tell somebody they don't know ball. And they think that that's an attack on their basketball intelligence when in reality it's just a phrase. Like Pacheem. Like I want to trade people one day and then I want to give them the MVP trophy the next day. That is the way that I do content creation. If you do not like that, that is your problem. I do not have a problem. I have no intentions on telling people how to make their own content. I have no intentions on like trying to curate the content that other people should watch. That is not my bag. My bag is to make the content that I find enjoyable to make. And that's what I choose to do. And other people, sometimes they don't agree with that. That is your prerogative, son. But I personally, I'm not making content for anybody else. I'm making content that I enjoy. Now, one of the annoying parts is like a lot of these other networks and people who get involved in this space, they know exactly how hard it is to build a following. They know how important it is for partnerships in order to make some of these things kind of pop off. They know that you need kind of like the community to help you. If you don't like me, you don't want to work with me, that's fine. Don't go out of your way to turn the community against me, because whether we like it or not, people follow our takes and our opinions like religion. So if one voice says, hey, they're doing it wrong, don't listen to them, then you just took away a part of the audience who may enjoy what I do when they need a break from what you do. Like, that's the thing. Like, we all contribute to this space. We just do it in different ways. And one of my favorite things is, look, we know who we talking about, bro. Like, some networks, y'all want to be the heroes of Heat Twitter. A hero is only as good as the villain that they face. And the basement has chosen to be the villains, bro. We will be that. We don't care. We enjoy that part of it. But don't try and discredit the work that we're doing. Like, we haven't put in the same hours of streaming. Like, we haven't gone through the process of building a network and trying to find a way to carve out our space. Like, we have a right to this space, and we have done the work to carve it out. Respect the work that we've done. You don't have to like it, but you will respect it because we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here now. We're going to be here later, and you're going to be sitting there. You're going to be pissed about it, and we still going to be doing the same fucking thing, not thinking about what you're doing. Like, that's as much of a soliloquy. And for those of you who are listening, y'all know I'm talking to y'all. It's cool. It's all love. It always has been. I have no hatred. I have no beefs. But y'all know what it is. I'm going to be here. I'm a dog. Y'all know it. And so y'all got to deal with it. Just let it go. Like, that'll be my overarching thing. Let it go, bro.
I'm going to need to put that on a t-shirt. I'm going to need to get that as my ringtone. I'm going to have to put a little trap beat behind that and listen to that in the car with the volume all the way up. That was beautifully said, right? And I'm with you because I personally believe that this space is big enough to have networks that maybe look at it from different perspectives and to have fan bases that agree with each of those. Some fans prefer the sunshine pumping. Just because we acknowledge one network may be sunshine pumping does not mean it's wrong. Some fans don't want to get on the internet and hear our team sucks, this guy's bad. Some fans want to hear the positive. That's fine for that faction. Some fans
watch that.
Yeah, exactly. We have no problem with that. Some fans don't want to hear the we're great when they know the front office has put together a terrible team and they want to hear the realistic side. So there's networks for that. Some fans just want to be negative and angry all the time because they're just a generally pessimistic person. There's networks for that too. You know, I really feel like the space is big enough to have all these different factions do what they do, have their own separate fan bases without having all this hostility online. Because let's say the Heat do get Dame, the championship contenders, and they win it all next year. I'd like to have a place on Heat Twitter where we can all come together and celebrate instead of fighting with each other and say, hey, you didn't think this could happen. Hey, you said you never believed us. Like, who cares? The biggest thing people forget is that sports is entertainment at the end of the day. People seem to forget that.
One of the things that they also forget is that people are going to watch all of it anyway. There are people who will listen to all the podcasts, watch all the streams because they are Heat fans. I do it. I listen to the other networks.
As do I.
Every day. I have not changed my regimen in terms of like Heat content consumption. I still listen to Five on the Floor every day. I listen to Miami Heat Beat, and it's because I like to hear Giancarlo Navis talk about basketball. I like Siobhan Beslow. I like Tiffany Meeks. I like Ethan Skolnick. I like Greg Sylvander. I like them. I know these people. I've worked with them. I like them. Now, whether or not they agree with my network as a whole, don't care. But I like them as people. And I think like it also, to the point that you were making about us being able to come together and being able to enjoy something together, I think that it'll be a benefit for the fans for all us to work together on something. Like, all of us can come together, like we've each done kind of like charity work in our own regard. If all of us kind of pooled our resources, came together, one gigantic kumbaya, let's make money for this one cause thing, why can't that work? What's the holdup? And I know this may be different, like it's a public forum, and I usually don't discuss this type of shit on the public forum, but it is what it is. We've been a year into it, bro. Shit is old now. Like, nobody cares anymore. Like, let's do something different this year, bro. Let's work together. Like, let's work together.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring this up on this podcast and this Believe network, just because I feel like it's more of a neutral thing. It's obviously a national network with all different cities and such. So I felt like maybe it would be a good medium and kind of what I'd like to do on this podcast.
Because maybe you believe it could happen?
I believe it could happen. Very, very, very smart. And I eventually would maybe like to get people from the other networks on this kind of talk out, their side of things. And then maybe we can come to an understanding, say, hey, nobody really dislikes each other. Let's just stop being petty with all this shit. And let's enjoy what's hopefully going to be a very good Heat season. I went back and forth with Greg. You mentioned Greg on Twitter a while back talking about, like a cross-network basketball tournament. We could do something like that for charity. I think that idea would be amazing. Now, it was actually kind of funny because he said something about he was doing the poster jump shot thing, and I posted like a whole dope hoop mixtape. And then I was like, where's yours? And he's like, somewhere on the internet. So I still need that from you, Greg. If you watch this, I still want to see your jumper, man. But let's do it, man. Like I know I was blocked by him for a while for a joke that I made in the past that maybe I shouldn't have made because I didn't really know him like that at the time. So I could see how maybe he would have taken that personal because I didn't really know him like that. But obviously, I've had interactions with him since then. But let's do it, man. Let's do some sort of collaboration between the networks because I do think if the Heat get Dame, this could be a year they win it all. And I want to be able to go on Twitter and celebrate with everybody instead of having to fight, scroll through all these people fighting with each other,
We're going to do it anyway. Like, if the Heat team is good, we're going to celebrate, bro. Like, that's the part that confuses me. Like, when you come back and be like, oh, you can't celebrate the team now. Watch me. I'm not going to not celebrate it because you, Mr. 0110010, tell me that I should not celebrate my team. I'm happy that they are here. Oh. And that's going to be the thing that's kind of like confusing. Like, if the Heat are good next year, the basement won't even be the same. Like, it won't. We're just going to make fun of other teams. Like, that's what we would do. Cat's out the bag now.
Yeah, you're right. If they would have won last year, I would have celebrated, even though obviously a lot of the other networks were saying that the basement can't. But there are still people, in this network or in the basement, in other networks that feel the need to fight for themselves. And again, everyone can do what what they please at the end of the day. I just would like to have a space where all of that is eliminated because I just think it's completely unnecessary.
I also think that there's just by nature of what's happened, like there's a lot of bad blood on multiple sides. So it's like there's some people who at this point, they don't feel like they're willing to come to the table. And I can say that for like the basement. There are some people from all the networks who are just unwilling to come to the table. And I think that's fine. I just think that the people who are willing to come to the table, the people who are willing to like unify to do stuff, like let's do that. Like you don't have to work with everybody here. Work with the people that you're willing to work with. Allow some of our people to work with your people. Like just to give the Heat fan base a more well-rounded kind of content creation experience. We are the leaders in this space. Like whether or not we want, like we dominate this shit. Us 5 Reasons Heat beat, Locked On, like Believe coming up in the network, Playbook Sports. Like we work with Playbook Sports. They may not agree with everything, but we've been on their pods. We had them on ours. Like joining spaces and stuff like that. Like that shit can all work for everybody. Like let's cross contaminate some of these fan bases and let people make up their own mind. Don't tell people what to believe. Let them make up their own mind about what they should believe and who they want to believe in any instance.
Yeah. Well, first off, you brought up a good point. There's certainly stuff behind the scenes that maybe don't allow for this. Yeah. And coming from myself, who's only been in this space for a year, I'm not the guy that, that should say, hey, everyone come together. They kind of have to form their own opinions on that stuff. There's been guys like you and other people on our network, the other networks. They've been doing this for a lot longer than I have. But I'd still like
to saying a lot longer and like I'm this fossil in the content creation game, bro. This is year 3. I started streaming in 2020, but this will technically be my 5th basketball season streaming.
Yeah, the world was a lot different back then in 2020. I don't know if you know.
That's the reason why I started streaming. I had fuck all to do outside of that.
You was writing articles on a typewriter back then, bro. You was using your Nokia BlackBerry back then to stream, man. It's a different world.
And you was making videos about the kid back then. Like I saw videos prior to us interacting where you mentioned your boy. Like, don't think the boy ain't doing research.
Hey, I was tagging you for clout and it worked. And then I got to the network and you still hated me, even though I had gave you the love previously. But
yeah, it didn't matter.
That's kind of all I wanted to say about just kind of the Heat Twitter space. I think there was something else I was going to mention about it, but I forget. But either way, there's obviously no hostility on my side. I mean, I listen to all the networks at the end of the day because I think each one provides a different sort of, a different perspective that is actually beneficial. But before we get out of here, I do got one would you rather question for you. Would you rather sprint full speed blindly into an Steven Adams screen, or would you rather take a charge from Zion Williamson head on?
So first of all, I used to play football, so I'd rather sprint blindly into a Steven Adams screen because unlike some people, I have faith in my athletic prowess. Even blindfolded, I'm going to lower this shoulder and I'm going to plow right through that New Zealander. Okay? Derrick Henry style. I'm running Steven Adams ass the fuck over. That's not even a question for me. Sitting there waiting for Zion Williamson, first of all, I don't know how many pounds he would weigh at the time of this. So me taking a charge, there's a potential chance that he may fall forward on me. I'm not willing to risk it. I'm running over Steven Adams.
Out of all the crazy things you've said on the internet, you have not said anything crazier than you will plow through Steven Adams. Can we get a pause on that?
Easily,
by the way? But also, but I don't even want to address that anymore because that's the 85%. Just for y'all that don't know, the 85% of the time Royal's lying. That's that 85%. Royal, before we get out of here, anything you want to shout out, promote, go ahead and give some love to the network and everything else you got going on.
Yeah, so I want to shout out the Believe Network and my boy Ant DeNiro's personal YouTube page. If you're not following him, make sure you do that. The man is always coming up with creative content, and you can find it all over the place because he puts it all over the goddamn place. It's funny content. It's creative. It's something that you're not getting from any other creator in this space. And so I don't feel the need to promote myself. I don't want you hoes following me. No way. Also, like, the basement will do its work. Like, you will see us because we'll be present. But more than anything, I want to just shout out Ant for all the work that he's putting in. He's holding it down for multiple networks on top of his own personal shit. So I know that takes up a lot of time. So yeah, shout out to you, bro. And shout out to what you're doing here. Keep growing this shit, and we're going to help you any way that we can.
I appreciate that, bro. And now I'm probably going to close this with diss track and then get you all mad over it.
No, it's cool, bro. I don't get mad at people on the internet. You are 0 and 1 2, and I would disrespect you infinitely more times than I compliment you. So just take that one and run with it.
If y'all want to see me get disrespected on a public forum in front of hundreds and hundreds of people, go subscribe to the Basement Sports Network. I'm telling y'all, obviously, we got a lot of fans on both, and I appreciate y'all. But if you a Heat fan and you on the internet, I promise you, subscribing to the Basement Sports Network will be like the best decision you ever made. Imagine what I do on this channel, and then imagine that 20 different variations of that over on the Basement Sports Network. It's truly, I think, like a really beautiful thing that we've put together over there. It's 20 or 20, probably a little over 20 people, and every single one has like a completely different personality. And when you mesh it together, it's just an absolute masterpiece. So go check it out. We're doing Dolphins and Heat off-season streams right now, and of course, come season, we'll be there live after every single game, hosted by Royal. Except the occasional time he misses, then hey, maybe I'll host over there, and I'll get a bunch of people asking to bring Royal back immediately. But that's all I got for this episode. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.
Op number 2, he's closing in on number 1 because this is the person that pisses me off the most, and it's Ant DeNardo.
I'll pipe your girl when she texts, I won't show up. Balls deep in left just like tongue over lower. Now, I will say, Royal loves talking shit online, loves hiding behind that screen, kind of like he Tyler Herro. But speaking of him, high-level role player is not even an insult. I mean, Whopper, maybe for sure, but Kyle Lowry sucks so much at the time. He still sucks, but